Howl behind the church. I was never a believer in ghost stories or monster tales. Not until that night behind St. Arlen's Church. I'd taken the same shortcut for years, usually after closing my shift at the old diner 3 blocks down. Saves me 10 minutes of walking home. It's not well lit, sure, but it runs right behind the church's stone cemetery wall, and nothing ever happened there. Until something did. That Friday night was colder than usual. Sharp cold. I pulled my hoodie tighter and lit a cigarette, trying to warm my hands more than anything. The streets were dead. It was nearly 2 a.m. The only lights still on were at the laundromat and, oddly, a single lamp in the church's steeple. I remember thinking, weird. That's never on. The shortcut runs between the back wall of the graveyard and the rear alley where they park the maintenance truck. It's narrow, cobbled, and always smelled faintly of old rain and burned incense. That night, it smelled different. Like wet fur and iron. Something primal. At first, I thought it was an animal. I heard claws. Not steps, claws on stone. Something was keeping pace with me, just on the other side of the graveyard wall. I stopped. The sound stopped. I took 2 more steps. The scraping resumed. It was stalking me. I tried to laugh it off, told myself it was probably a stray dog. A big one. Maybe even a coyote. We had a few sightings over the years. But then it did something no dog ever does. It whispered my name. Not loudly. Not humanly. Low. Gravelly. Like the sound came from deep in its throat. I froze. I hadn't told anyone I'd be taking the alley that night. I slowly turned around. The alley was empty. Nothing behind me. But something was above. I looked up at the roof of the chapel. That's when I saw it. Silhouetted against the moonlight, perched like a gargoyle on the edge of the roof, was a shape. Not quite man. Not quite beast. It had a hunched frame, with long limbs bent in unnatural angles. Thick fur bristled along its spine. Its head was wrong. Long snout. Sharp ears. And those eyes, reflecting pale silver like headlights in fog. And it was staring directly at me. My legs wanted to run, but my body locked. It opened its mouth and let out a low growl, but not loud. Almost restrained. Like it was holding back. Then, with terrifying grace, it leapt from the roof. I flinched, ducked, stumbled backward. But it didn't land on me. Didn't attack. It landed 5 feet away, crouched low, claws skimming the cobblestones. It stared for a second longer, then reached into something tied around its waist, a leather pouch, almost like a belt. It pulled something out and tossed it at my feet. A photograph. Then it turned, walked into the shadows behind the dumpsters, and vanished. I didn't breathe until the sound of its claws faded completely. My hands shook as I picked up the photo. It was a picture of me, taken from behind. Walking. The exact shortcut I was in. It wasn't printed digitally. It looked like film, sepia-toned and frayed around the edges. On the back, scribbled in jagged, handwritten letters. See you next full moon, brother. I stood there, heart pounding so hard I felt dizzy. Brother? I don't have a brother. I'm an only child. Always have been. My parents were sure about it. Or were they? The next day, I drove straight to my mother's place, photo in hand. I didn't say anything. I just handed it to her. She went pale. Her fingers shook. I asked her, "Is there something you're not telling me?" She sat down at the kitchen table like the weight of years had dropped onto her back all at once. Then, she told me everything. I had a twin. A brother. His name was Caleb. We were born premature. She said he didn't survive. At least, that's what she was told. After she gave birth, they took Caleb to the NICU. He never came back. The hospital said there were complications. No funeral. No ashes. Nothing. But my mother swore she always felt he was still alive. Said she used to hear a second heartbeat in the house when I was a baby. Sometimes, she swore she saw shadows that moved like a child. But never both of us in the same room. Eventually, she stopped talking about it. Everyone thought she was grieving too hard. Imagining things. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing it again. That voice. Whispered through cracks in the wall. Through the wind. I started digging. Found old birth records, doctor files. There were gaps. Names crossed out. Pages missing. And then I found it. An envelope tucked in a file labeled Caleb. Inside, photos. One showed an infant. His eyes were open, silver. Another was more recent. A young boy. Barefoot. In a wooded area. Covered in fur. Not hair, fur. The last page was a note. In my father's handwriting. He changes during the moon. We told them to take him. We didn't know what else to do. Since that night, I've kept the photo close. The one Caleb dropped at my feet. I circle every full moon on my calendar now. Because I know he's still watching me. Sometimes, I catch a shape on the rooftops. Sometimes, I hear claws tapping outside my window. And sometimes, I hear a voice in the dark. Soon. It wasn't just a warning. It wasn't a threat. It was an invitation. In every full moon since, I feel something in my blood. A heat. A pressure behind my eyes. My bones ache. My jaw clicks in my sleep. Last night, I found deep scratches in the bed frame. And a note on my mirror. In the same handwriting. You're not alone anymore, brother.